On the day my brother-in-law died in battle, my sister tried to kill herself by throwing herself at his coffin. After she was saved, the emperor praised her loyalty and personally named her a virtuous widow. Not long after, the second son of the Marquis family came to visit. My sister set me up to marry into their household, saying that with me there, she would at least have a sister by her side to ease her sorrow. After the wedding, Jack treated me extremely well. Before long, I was pregnant. Every day, she fed me all kinds of rich foods herself, saying I needed to recover well. But on the day I gave birth, the baby was too large and I had a difficult labor. The people in the manor only listened to my screams, yet not a single person went out to find me a doctor. As I was dying, my older sister came in holding a child and placed it beside my pillow. Little sister, from now on, this will be your child. You can go in peace. I will help you raise her. Jack held her and the child in his arms, staring at me coldly. You got to be the Marquis's wife for a year. That was already more than you deserved. The only woman I have ever loved is Lucy. If she had not gotten pregnant, I never would have married you just to put on this act. So it had all been their trap. Listening to their laughter, I breathed my last. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day the whole city was in mourning, when Marquis Dingyuan's coffin returned to the capital. The cold wind cut like a knife, blowing ash from paper offerings into my face. I sharply sucked in a cold breath. It felt as if my lungs still held the tearing pain from my difficult labor in my last life. But what I heard was no longer the midwife's cold urging or Jack's cruel laughter. It was thunderous funeral music and piercing cries. I instinctively touched my flat stomach, my fingertips trembling. I really was back. Heaven had eyes. It actually sent me back to the starting point of this crime. Not far away, my older sister Lucy stood in the center of the crowd, dressed in mourning white. Her face was pale as paper, her body frail as a willow in the wind. Only her red lips stood out in the sea of white, making her look especially pitiful. She had married Marquis Dingyuan, Tom, only 2 days before her husband put on armor and went to war. Less than a year later, news came back that he had died on the battlefield. The army had been ambushed, and the Marquis's body was never found. Even the Agerwood coffin carried back today held only a blood-stained, shattered set of armor. The emperor honored Marquis Dingyuan for dying heroically for the country. Breaking ancestral rules, he personally brought the empress and all the court officials to the city gate to welcome his coffin home. A white funeral procession came forward. Long banners blocked the sun, and the funeral music was heartbreakingly mournful. Supported by her maid, Lucy slowly walked toward the massive coffin. With every step, she swayed, as if she might collapse at any moment. In my last life, right in front of the emperor, the empress, and all the officials, she suddenly pushed away her maid in the height of her grief and threw herself at the coffin. Her blood stained the white cloth and the Marquis Dingyuan Manor's gate. Because of that, she earned the reputation of a loyal, chaste widow, and was personally named a second-rank honored widow by the emperor. Back then, I was that stupid. Out of sisterly love, I was terrified and rushed forward to stop her. My body became her cushion. Not only was she rescued without a scratch, but my chest was slammed so hard that it bruised badly and hurt for half a month. My ridiculous act of bravery had actually helped her and completed her perfect performance. This time, I stared coldly at the calculating glint in her eyes. I wanted to see how she would finish this act safely without me as her human cushion. I stepped forward, tightly holding my sister's arm, pretending to be heartbroken and deeply devoted to her as tears welled in my eyes. Sister, you have to hold on. The Marquis's spirit in heaven would never want to see you destroy yourself like this. Lucy glanced at me without leaving a trace, and I clearly saw a flash of annoyance in her eyes. She took a deep breath, her eyes flickered, and she suddenly raised her voice, crying miserably. My husband, why did you leave me behind? The long night is endless, and the road to the underworld is cold. How could I bear to let you go alone? Lucy will come with you now. With that, she suddenly used force, shook off the maid's hand, and put on a determined look. Crying as she ran, she slammed herself toward the rock-hard Agarwood coffin. She moved fast, but the angle of her body was clever. Clearly, she had calculated that I would rush forward like before and catch her. I pretended to wipe my tears, but in that instant, my wrist slipped away like an eel, and I stepped back half a step. Covering my face, I cried even louder than she did. Sister, you have to accept it. Do not cry yourself sick. Lucy never expected me to suddenly let go. She had held back a bit, ready to be stopped by me at any second. Now her balance was completely gone, and her foot stumbled. She rushed forward fast and hard. With a dull, terrifying bang, the sound echoed through the city gate. Without me blocking her, Lucy's forehead slammed hard into the copper-studded edge of the coffin. It all happened too fast. Everyone froze in shock. Lucy did not even have time to scream. A horrifying gash split open on her forehead. Blood gushed out like a broken dam, splashing onto her white mourning clothes and the black coffin. It was a horrifying sight. She slid down limply like a rag, collapsed heavily to the ground, and passed out completely. I laughed coldly inside, but on the surface I instantly let out a heart-wrenching scream and threw myself toward her, ignoring the blood on the ground. I looked at Lucy lying limp on the ground. That face that always carried an air of nobility was now pale and covered in blood. In my heart, I felt nothing but satisfaction. Sister! Sister, what happened to you? I cried so hard my whole body shook, holding her shoulders tightly and shaking her. Somebody, get a doctor! Save her! Only then did the officials and commoners snap out of it. The palace maids and eunuchs beside the emperor rushed over, lifting Lucy in a flurry and carrying her inside the city gate. Inside the temporary soft tent, everyone from the Marquis Dingyuan household and all the officials' female relatives were deeply shaken by what had just happened. After a long silence, the room erupted in sharp gasps. Old Madame Dingyuan had already been devastated by the loss of her son. Seeing her daughter-in-law act so decisively, she cried even harder and kept bowing her head. My son, why did she have to do this? A noble lady wiped her tears with a handkerchief and sighed. What a fierce and loyal woman. She hit the coffin without hesitation. She must have truly wanted to die. The empress stood beside the emperor. After witnessing that tragic crash with her own eyes, she said with reddened eyes, Your Majesty, Lady Dingyuan's act of loyalty could move heaven and earth. The Marquis Dingyuan family is full of loyal souls. Even the woman he married is this strong-willed. It truly deserves respect. The emperor was deeply moved as well. He slightly raised his head and sighed. A woman this loyal, willing to die with her husband, should be rewarded and held up as a model for all women. The empress speaks wisely. The emperor looked around and announced loudly, Prepare the decree. Lady Lucy of Marquis Dingyuan is virtuous and loyal. She is to be named a second-rank honored widow, as my reward to the family of a loyal minister. Grant her 100 taels of gold and 50 bolts of brocade. When the Marquis Dingyuan family heard this, they temporarily suppressed their grief. This was an enormous honor for their household. Supported by the clan members, the old madam led everyone to kneel and receive the decree. This old woman thanks your majesty on behalf of the Marquis' household. Kneeling in the crowd, I curled my lips in a barely noticeable smile. Your majesty, the faster and higher this reward comes, the harder Lucy will fall later. The higher she climbs, the more completely she will shatter when she falls. The soft tent was filled with the smell of blood. Lucy had been placed on a couch, and a palace maid had barely covered the wound on her forehead with clean white cloth. But blood quickly soaked through again. Jack hurriedly squeezed in from outside. He wore plain mourning clothes, and his usually gentle, refined face was now full of anxiety. He quickly walked to the couch and looked at the unconscious Lucy. A trace of unconcealable pain and panic flashed in his eyes. He turned to look at me, his voice trembling with restraint. Second miss, is my sister-in-law all right? Seeing his deeply affectionate act made my stomach churn. In my last life, it was this same hypocritical face that carried tonic soup to me every day and said, Anna, you must take good care of yourself. But on the day I died in labor, he held his sister-in-law and smiled as he watched me breathe my last. I forced down the hatred in my heart and put on a panicked, helpless look. I turned to the matron standing beside the empress. Matron, has the imperial physician arrived? My sister has lost so much blood. Please have the physician check her right away. She is now a virtuous widow personally honored by the emperor, a model for the women of Great Chu. Nothing can happen to her. If I remembered correctly, Lucy was already 1 month pregnant by now. In my previous life, the reason she was so eager to push me into the Marquis' household was to make it easier to swap the child. Tom had been away at war for a year. If she gave birth, it would be a capital crime. So they plotted for me to marry Jack. After she secretly gave birth, they would claim the child was mine from my difficult labor. With that switch, not only could they protect their illegitimate child, but that child could also rightfully become the legitimate grandson of the Marquis Dingyuan family and even inherit the title one day. And from beginning to end, I was nothing but an incubator, a cover they could throw away at any time. This time, I would make sure her pregnancy was exposed openly at the emperor's feet, in front of the entire court. I would turn her personally granted second-rank title into a blade hanging over her and Jack's necks. As soon as I finished speaking, Jack's face visibly changed. He suddenly straightened up, his eyes darting away as he hurriedly stopped it. No, this would be too troublesome. After all, we are outside the city gate, and this place is crude. The palace physicians are far too noble for this. Let it go. Once we return to the Marquis Manor, I will have the best doctor in the capital treat my sister-in-law. His eyes were full of concern, but he was afraid that once the imperial physician checked her pulse, Lucy's 1-month pregnancy would be exposed. He reached out, seemingly trying to block the physician outside the tent. How could I let him have his way? I stood up abruptly and said loudly and urgently, Young Master Jack, what are you saying? My sister tried to die for the Marquise. Her loyalty could move heaven and earth. Is she not even worthy of treatment from an imperial physician? She was just personally honored by the emperor as a virtuous widow, and she is your own sister-in-law. She has lost so much blood. If something happens to her on the way back, can you take responsibility for that? Can you face your older brother, whose body was never even found? My voice was loud, and every word showed my concern for my sister and my dissatisfaction with Jack. Even the officials and noblewomen outside the tent heard everything clearly. The matron beside the empress also felt that Jack's behavior was improper and nodded with a frown. Miss Anna is right. Lady Dingyuan is a national example of virtue. His Majesty and Her Majesty are both worried outside. Quickly summon Imperial Physician Henry from the Imperial Medical Bureau. Imperial Physician Henry was an old hand at the bureau, highly skilled in medicine, and he arrived quickly, carrying his medical kit into the tent. Jack was so anxious that sweat broke out on his forehead. He clenched the corners of his clothes tightly and still tried to step forward to stop Physician Henry. My sister-in-law only has an external wound. There is no need to take her pulse. Stop the bleeding first. In my last life, Lucy had only lightly bumped herself and remained conscious. Jack casually found an excuse and politely refused the imperial physician. After they returned home, she secretly recovered. No one knew the secret of her pregnancy, but now she had truly slammed into the coffin, was unconscious, and could not even speak. This was the perfect chance to expose everything. Without hesitation, I stepped forward and stood in front of Jack like a mother hen protecting her chick, glaring at him with red eyes. Young Master Jack, why are you trying so hard to stop the physician from saving her? She is my own sister. I will not allow anyone to delay her treatment. With me looking like a loving sister willing to fight to protect her, who would not be moved? Just then, the Empress heard the argument inside and walked in with the help of palace maids. Her dignified gaze swept over everyone as she asked coldly, "What is going on? How badly is Lady Dingyuan hurt? Young Master Jack, why are you blocking the physician?" Jack's legs weakened and he almost fell to his knees. He stammered, "Your Majesty, I was only afraid of disturbing my sister-in-law." "Ridiculous," the Empress sneered. "Physician Henry, go treat her at once." "Yes, Your Majesty." Physician Henry immediately carried his medical kit forward and sat by the couch. At that moment, old Madame Dingyuan, who had hurried over, was also helped into the soft tent and stood to the side. Looking at Lucy with blood all over her head, the old madam looked heartbroken. Whether she was sincere or not, no one could know. But Lucy had just earned the household a second-rank honor, so the old madam had to act deeply concerned no matter what. Physician Henry took out a silk handkerchief and gently placed it over Lucy's pale wrist. The tent fell silent, with only the faint sound of everyone breathing. After a while, Physician Henry's brows furrowed slightly. He switched to her other hand, closed his eyes, and carefully felt the pulse. His expression slowly changed from confusion to shock. Finally, it turned into unspeakable alarm and fear. The physician's fingers suddenly trembled and he pulled them back as if he had been shocked. Cold sweat instantly appeared on his forehead. I had been watching him closely. Seeing that, I immediately raised my voice and shouted through tears, "Physician, what is wrong? Did something happen to my sister? Is her head injury serious?" Tears poured down my face as I threw myself beside my sister, tightly holding her cold hand and calling her name over and over. Physician Henry dropped to his knees with a thud, kowtowing repeatedly to the Empress and the old madam, his voice trembling. "Your Majesty, old madam, Lady Dingyuan's head injury is serious, but it has not damaged anything vital. With trauma medicine applied, she should be fine. It is just... The old madam grew anxious and urged him with her cane. "Just what? Why are you stammering like that?" Physician Henry swallowed, then steeled himself and replied, "I do not know if this old servant has grown too old and made a mistake, but Lady Dingyuan's pulse moves like pearls rolling on a jade plate. It is strong and slippery. It is indeed a pregnancy pulse, and it has been more than 1 month." The words pregnancy pulse struck like thunder out of nowhere. The entire soft tent instantly fell into deathly silence. The air seemed to freeze, and everyone's expression locked on their face. I was the first to break the silence. I widened my eyes and pretended I did not understand at all, saying in shock, "Physician Henry, what nonsense are you talking about? What pregnancy pulse?" The Marquis left the capital on the second day after the wedding. It has been a year. My sister has been alone all this time. How could she possibly be pregnant? Have you gone senile? Jack's face instantly turned ashen, and his whole body shook violently. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, he jumped up and roared sharply. "Nonsense, you quack! My sister-in-law is pure and innocent. How could she be pregnant? You are slandering the Marquis Dingyuan family's reputation." I also stood up, looking furious as I pointed at the physician and scolded him. "Physician, my elder sister has only been married into the Marquis' household for a year, but everyone praises her as gentle and virtuous. Now that the Marquis has died in battle, she was so grief-stricken that she threw herself at his coffin, not even caring about her own life. Such a loyal and chaste woman, and you dare accuse her of being pregnant? What are you trying to do?" Physician Henry was a stubborn man too. He had served in the Imperial Medical Bureau his whole life and cared most about his reputation. After being accused by us again and again, his temper rose. He straightened his back and fired back loudly. "I have served in the Imperial Medical Bureau for 40 years, through 2 reigns, and have never made such a mistake. This pregnancy pulse is like pearls rolling across a plate. If I cannot even recognize this, I might as well smash my own signboard. Miss Anna, young Master Jack, if you do not believe me, you may call other Imperial physicians to take her pulse. I am willing to guarantee it with my head." Seeing Jack sweating like rain and nearly breaking down, I knew the moment had come. I added more fuel to the fire, turned sharply, and dropped to my knees before the Empress. I kowtowed hard. "Your Majesty, please uphold justice for my sister," I cried until my voice went hoarse. "Please summon a few more Imperial physicians. The Marquis has just died in battle, his bones still cold. My sister risked her life to die with him, and her fate is still unknown. Yet a quack dares to throw this kind of filth on her name. This does not only insult my sister, it insults Marquis Dingyuan's spirit. Please, Your Majesty, investigate this thoroughly." The argument inside the tent was loud. The officials and their families outside had already heard everything clearly. The Emperor had been outside discussing the funeral arrangements with the Minister of Rites. Hearing the noise inside, his face darkened. He strode in with 2 personal Imperial physicians and several high-ranking officials. "What is all this shouting? Where is your decorum?" the Emperor roared. The Empress's face was grim as she stepped forward and quietly reported Physician Henry's diagnosis. The Emperor's gaze swept like a blade over the unconscious Lucy and the trembling Jack. He ordered coldly, "Physician John, Physician William, you 2 will take Lady Dingyuan's pulse. If the diagnosis is wrong, Physician Henry will answer with his head. If it is right..." The Emperor gave a cold snort and did not finish. The 2 physicians immediately accepted the order and stepped forward. The tent was silent. Everyone's heart was in their throat. After only a few breaths, Physician John and Physician William exchanged a glance, each seeing shock and fear in the other's eyes. They both stepped back together, knelt at the Emperor's feet, and their clear voices reached everyone's ears. "Your Majesty, Physician Henry spoke the truth. Lady Dingyuan is indeed pregnant, and it has been more than 1 month. I gasped and instantly covered my mouth, collapsing to the ground with a face full of disbelief. Outside the tent, the noblewomen exploded into whispers. Their murmurs surged like a tide. Good heavens, Marquis Dingyuan has been gone from the capital for a year, yet she is 1 month pregnant. Whose child is it? I heard the Marquis went to the border only a few days after the wedding. With so many lonely nights, Lady Dingyuan must have failed to control herself and done something improper. You really cannot judge a person by their face. Just now she was crying and trying to die on the coffin, and everyone thought she was a loyal widow. Turns out she was pregnant with a bastard and wanted to die to protect her reputation. My goodness, she was just personally named a virtuous widow by the Emperor, and now she is found pregnant. This is deceiving the Emperor. I have never heard of anything like this. I think the inner court of the Marquis Dingyuan household may not be clean either. Tisk, that younger brother-in-law is old enough to marry but never has, and he hangs around his sister-in-law every day. Who knows? Every word was like a loud slap across the faces of the Marquis Dingyuan family and the Duke Wei family. The Emperor and Empress's faces grew darker and darker, like the night sky before a storm. The Emperor had just praised her as a model for all women and issued a decree naming her a virtuous widow. Now he had been slapped in the face. This was a public challenge to imperial authority. Old Madame Dingyuan's vision went dark, and she nearly fainted. She gripped the matron's hand tightly, trembling all over, her eyes fixed on Lucy lying on the bed as she was about to explode. With a weak groan, at this critical moment, Lucy let out a faint sound and slowly opened her eyes. When she woke up, she had not yet noticed the strange atmosphere around her. She only felt as if her forehead were splitting open. With hazy eyes, she looked at the room full of people and immediately slipped back into the role of a loyal widow. Her face was full of sorrow. She struggled to get up as tears fell like broken beads. Why? Why did you save me? She cried weakly, her voice tragically beautiful. Let me follow my husband. His body was never found. What meaning is there in living? I would rather die cleanly. If this had been half an hour earlier, those words would have made everyone cry. But now, what greeted her was a room full of cold contempt. Old Madame Dingyuan could no longer hold back. She suddenly broke free from the matron's support, rushed to the couch in a few steps, and spat hard at Lucy. Bah, you shameless slut. You still have the nerve to mention Tom? You still dare to talk about living and dying? Lucy was completely confused after being spat on. She stared blankly at the mother-in-law who had always been kind to her and murmured, Mother, what are you talking about? Your daughter-in-law did not. Before she could finish, I rushed forward in a rage, grabbed her wrist and cried out in heartbreak. Sister, how could you be so foolish? Whose child is in your belly? Lucy's face instantly turned deathly pale, and her mind exploded with a buzzing sound. I pointed at her stomach and shouted, 3 royal doctors have already examined you. They confirmed you are 1 month pregnant. Anna, how could you be so foolish? Lord Tom died a hero for the country. How could you betray him just because you were lonely? Every word I said cut deep. How are Mom and Dad supposed to face anyone now? What about the old madam of the Marquis estate? How can you face the honorary title the Emperor just gave you? Anna, you grew up reading rules for women. How could you do this? Tell me the truth. Whose baby is it? Did some man force you? After hearing the news, my father, Duke Wei, and my mother rushed over from the officials' side and happened to hear everything outside the tent. My mother's eyes rolled back and she almost fainted on the spot. My father was trembling with rage, his face bright red. My mother rushed into the tent, grabbed Anna's arm, and dug her nails into her skin. You disgraceful girl, you were raised with manners and education. I taught you carefully since childhood. You would never do something this shameful on your own. Tell me, did someone force you? Say it. Even at this critical moment, my mother was still trying to find an excuse for Anna and save the family's reputation. As long as Anna insisted she had been forced, her reputation would be ruined, but at least she would not die. Anna trembled all over. The pain in her forehead and the fear in her heart left her mind completely blank. Her terrified eyes instinctively turned toward Jake. But the old madam of the Marquis estate was not having it. She gave a cold laugh, her gaze sharp as a knife. Madame Duke Wei, what exactly are you trying to say? Are you trying to dump this filth onto our estate? Our Marquis estate is strict and heavily guarded. Only close family can enter the inner courtyard. What kind of predator could sneak past everyone and force her? Anna, I will ask you one thing today. Whose bastard child are you carrying? Jake stood nearby, drenched in cold sweat. His legs felt like they were filled with lead. He felt Anna's pleading gaze but immediately looked away and lowered his head, pretending not to see her begging eyes. Clearly, he wanted her to take the whole blame alone. I sneered inside. In my last life, were they not madly in love? They tricked me into marriage and even forced me to death just to be together. Now, in front of the whole court, I wanted to see how strong their so-called true love really was. I stepped forward, gripped Anna's hand tightly and made my tone heavier. Anna, if you have been wronged, you must say it. His Majesty and the Empress are right here. What are you afraid of? The Emperor is merciful and sees everything clearly. He just granted you an honorary title. You were personally named a virtuous widow by imperial decree. If you truly had an affair, that would be deceiving the Emperor. A capital crime. The words, deceiving the Emperor, completely broke Anna's mental defense. Her whole body shook violently. and tears mixed with blood ran down her face. The old madam slammed her cane hard against the ground and pointed at her furiously. Still not talking? Drag her out. Punish her in front of the whole city and beat her to death if you must. Even if the Tom family line ends here, we cannot afford this disgrace. The Tom family clan leader and several elders who came with the old madam were also furious. What a disaster for the family. What a disaster. Drown this shameless woman. The Marquis estate knew this had angered the emperor. Seeing his face grow darker and darker, they had to throw this blame away fast. They could not let the whole estate die with her. With tears in my eyes, I looked at Anna and questioned her in heartbreak. Anna, you are the eldest legitimate daughter of our family. Since childhood, father and mother expected so much from you. They taught you music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. How could you do something so shameless? Even if you do not care about yourself, do you not care about the lives of everyone in our family? My father, Duke Wei, also looked grim, his eyes filled with determination. If you refuse to name the man, then our family will act as if we never had a daughter like you. Today, in front of His Majesty, the Duke Wei estate cuts all ties with you. Pressed from every side and facing death, Anna finally broke down. She looked desperately at Jake, who kept his head down and played dead. Hatred and madness flashed in her eyes. Then she rolled off the couch and knelt at the old madam's feet, sobbing loudly. Mother, the baby in my belly is not a bastard. It is Jake's child. The moment she said that, the whole place erupted. Jake looked like he had been struck by lightning. His legs gave out, and he fell to his knees, sweating like rain and collapsing like mud. The breath of anger trapped in my chest finally came out in satisfaction. In this life, their dirty affair was exposed in public, right in front of everyone, under the crime of deceiving the emperor. Now I wanted to see how Jake, that selfish snake, would clean up this mess. Jake looked ashen, knocking his head against the ground again and again until his forehead quickly started bleeding. Your Majesty, forgive me. Your Majesty, forgive me. The old madam looked like she had been struck by lightning and staggered back several steps. If her maid had not held her up, she would have fallen. She pointed at Jake in disbelief. What did you say? Then, somehow finding strength, the old madam rushed forward, raised her hand, and slapped Jake hard across the face. You beast! You worthless thing! How dare you commit such a disgusting crime, sleeping with your own sister-in-law? How can you face your brother, whose body is barely cold? I will beat you to death. The old madam cried angry tears and raised her cane to strike Jake. Jake knelt on the ground, dodging while crying and defending himself. Mother, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. But when my brother got married, he went to war before they even shared a wedding night. He and Anna were never truly husband and wife. He raised his head, crying and begging his mother. I have loved Anna since childhood. It was the emperor's arranged marriage that separated us. Please, mother, let us be together. Besides, she is already carrying my child. That is your real grandson, and the only grandson of the Marquis estate now. Seeing Jake plead, Anna acted like she had grabbed a lifeline. She crawled over, hugged the old madam's leg, and cried. Mother, I did not mean to. Before Lord Tom went to war, he told me that if he died, I should live well and did not have to stay widowed for him. He allowed me to remarry. My husband died for the country. Was that not his final wish? Why can you not let us be together? I almost laughed from anger. How could she be this shameless? She called cheating honoring his last wish, and called sleeping with her brother-in-law being forced by love. I immediately stepped forward and sharply cut off her ridiculous excuse. Anna, Lord Tom was a great hero. He cared for you and did not want you to be a young widow forever. He allowed you to remarry one day, but only after his funeral and through proper rules. But Anna, touch your belly. 1 month ago, news of Lord Tom's death had not even reached the capital. While he was fighting bloody battles on the front line, you were secretly sleeping with his younger brother at home. How could you betray him like that? Where does that leave our family's 100-year reputation? My words tore away their last shred of cover. My father, Duke Wei, let out a long sigh, flicked his sleeve, and knelt heavily before the emperor with tears in his eyes. Your Majesty, this old minister failed to raise his daughter. I have failed you and failed Great Shu. I raised such a disgraceful sinner. She has shamed our family. I beg your Majesty to take back my ducal title and punish this wicked daughter. The emperor sat in the main seat, his face dark as water, looking at Anna and Jake on the ground with disappointment and disgust. His voice was cold and merciless. You two have treated the law and family rules as nothing. I should have you both executed by slow slicing as a warning to others. The emperor paused, his gaze falling on the coffin in the distance, then sighed. But since Lord Tom died for the country and has not even been buried yet, I do not wish to spill blood at his funeral and disturb his soul. So I will spare your lives. Back then, I arranged the marriage between the Marquis estate and the Duke Wei estate. Now I will decide how it ends. The emperor waved his hand. By my decree, Anna, wife of the Marquis of Dingyuan, has violated her duties as a wife. Strip her of the second-rank honorary title just granted to her. The Marquis estate will divorce her. From now on, you are no longer Lord Tom's wife. Anna collapsed to the ground, her face gray as ash. The emperor closed his eyes, hiding a trace of pain. What a pity. Lord Tom died young for the country, and in the end, not even one widow remains to wear mourning clothes and grieve for him for 3 years. This is truly great choose sorrow. Hearing this, a sharp light flashed through my lowered eyes. When the emperor granted the marriage years ago, the decree only said, the daughter of Duke Wei. It never specified which daughter. It was only because Anna was the eldest legitimate daughter that she naturally married first. And now the perfect chance to become a widow was right in front of me. In my last life, marriage destroyed me. In this life, I did not want to marry at all. But if I stayed unmarried, my father would either send me to a family temple or marry me off cheaply to protect the family's reputation. So why not ask to marry the already dead Lord Tom? He was dead anyway. If I carried the title of his widow and kept mourning for him, I could save the family's shaky reputation and earn respect from the Marquis estate and even the emperor. Once I adopted a clan heir, I would become the real person in charge of the Marquis estate. I could shut the gates and live my wealthy life. Who would dare bully me then? Thinking of this, I took a deep breath, dropped to my knees before the emperor, and knocked my head hard against the ground. Your Majesty! I raised my head, my gaze firm and my voice clear. Lord Tom was a loyal hero of the nation. My elder sister has done something that shames his name. Our family deserves death for this. I, Lucy, am willing to atone for my family. I looked straight at the emperor and said every word clearly. I am willing to marry in my sister's place as Lord Tom's widow, marry the Marquis of Dingyuan, wear mourning clothes for him, and observe the full mourning period. What? The moment I said that, not only the officials but even the emperor and empress cried out in shock. The empress looked at me in surprise as if she were looking at someone completely insane. Miss Lucy, have you thought this through? Lord Tom is already dead, and not even his body remains. If you marry him, you will be marrying a memorial tablet. For the rest of your life, you will live alone, keeping widowhood. I bowed deeply again, my back straight. I am willing. Lord Tom died for the country. He was loyal, brave, and a true hero. Though I am only a woman, I understand loyalty and righteousness. I am willing to remain faithful to him for life, and never stain his name. I turned to look at the old madam of the Marquis estate, whose face was covered in tears. If the Marquis estate agrees after I marry in, I am willing to choose a bright child from the clan, adopt him as heir, raise him well, and continue Lord Tom's family line. I will not let a hero's legacy end. The Empress's eyes reddened. She was deeply moved by my righteous words. She turned to my father, who was kneeling nearby. Duke Wei, it seems not everyone in your family is shameless. Miss Lucy's loyalty and courage make her a model for women everywhere. A trace of approval and comfort flashed in the Emperor's eyes. He nodded heavily, clearly pleased. Good. Very good. What a loyal and righteous young lady. If Lord Tom knew this from the afterlife, he would be comforted. Someone, prepare the decree. The Emperor stood and announced loudly. Lucy, daughter of Duke Wei, understands righteousness and is loyal and admirable. She is hereby granted the title of third-rank Lady Hezen, betrothed to Lord Tom, Marquis of Dingyuan, and rewarded with 1,000 taels of gold, 100 acres of fertile land, and an imperial chastity arch. The decree was read aloud on the spot, echoing over the city gate. Everyone stared at me in shock. At that moment, I replaced Anna and became the center of everyone's attention. She relied on acting and lies, while I relied on open, proper planning. The white mourning clothes on Anna were ruthlessly stripped off by several strong old maids. With her hair loose and messy, she pointed at everyone and was dragged away in complete disgrace. Following the old madam's orders, she was sent straight back to the ancestral hall to be locked up and await punishment. As for me, with the palace maid's help, I changed into the full mourning clothes reserved for the lawful wife. With a clean face and bare hands, I solemnly held Lord Tom's memorial tablet. Then I walked steadily to the very front of the wedding procession. The people of the city had been gossiping about Anna's scandal, but now they saw me, an unmarried young woman, step forward for righteousness and carry the tablet through the wind. Everyone was moved. On both sides of the road, countless people silently knelt, tears falling on the spot. Lord Tom's spirit can rest now. With such a worthy wife, he can close his eyes in peace. Lady Hezen is truly righteous. I stood at the front of the procession as the cold wind blew through my hair. With red eyes, I gently wiped away the tears I had prepared long ago. My voice was mournful and loud. Bring my husband home. Just as the funeral procession was about to move out and the mourning music was about to play again, a frantic burst of hoofbeats came racing down the official road. A rider shot forward like an arrow off the string, breaking straight through the barricade ahead. The man on the horse was covered in blood, holding a golden command token high as he shouted himself hoarse. 800ly urgent dispatch, Marquis Jack is back! Marquis Jack is back! That shout was like a drop of water hitting boiling oil. The whole place exploded. The messenger cavalryman rushed to the city gate, but his strength gave out, and he fell hard from his horse. Ignoring his wounds, he scrambled forward and dropped to his knees before the emperor. With tears streaming down his face, he cried, Your Majesty, great victory, the Marquis is alive. He was hit by a poisoned arrow and fell off a cliff. Luckily, a farming family at the foot of the mountain saved him. The Marquis is blessed. He survived, and the poison is temporarily under control. His guards are already escorting him back to the capital. The Marquis is alive! The Emperor shot to his feet, overjoyed. He threw his head back and laughed, then immediately turned and issued an order. Good, good! Jack is alive. Heaven has protected my great Chu's finest general. Prepare the horses and summon the Imperial Hospital. Every physician must bring the best antidotes and go outside the city at once to meet Minister Jack. No delays. In an instant, the news that Marquis Jack had come back from the dead swept through the city gate like a storm. Everyone snapped out of their grief and erupted into thunderous cheers. He's alive! The Marquis is alive! This is amazing! Marquis Jack is truly blessed. Surviving this kind of disaster means great fortune is coming. The Emperor has always valued Marquis Jack the most. Now that he survived this, he'll probably be promoted again. I stood frozen in place, holding the memorial tablet. What? Alive? In my last life, Jack was absolutely, completely dead. In the end, they never even found a single bone. So how did he come back alive in this life? Could it be the butterfly effect from my rebirth changed how things were supposed to happen? Before I could even react, my mind still completely blank. The old madam of Marquis Jack's household had already come over, surrounded by a crowd. She grabbed my hand tightly. The fierceness she'd shown while beating Tom was gone. Her eyes were full of warmth and joy. She looked at me like I was some glowing goddess of fertility and praised me again and again. Good child, you're truly blessed. You had just said you would marry into our Jack family, and then news came that Jack survived. You're the lucky star of our Marquis estate. The old madam patted the back of my hand and declared solemnly, I only recognize you as my daughter-in-law. Now that Jack is alive, once he comes back and recovers, I will ask the Emperor for permission and personally arrange the grandest wedding for you two. I won't let you suffer even the slightest wrong. She didn't mention Lucy at all, the shameless woman still kneeling in the ancestral hall. In her eyes, I was the daughter-in-law who stepped up in a crisis, saved the estate's reputation, and brought good luck to her husband. Jack returned to the Marquis estate. He was carried into the manor late at night 2 days later. Though his life was saved, the poison had gone deep, and the long journey left him still unconscious. The Emperor sent the chief physician from the Imperial Hospital to stay at the estate personally. The physician said the remaining poison in the Marquis's body had not cleared yet, but thankfully, he was strong. As long as he rested, he would wake once the poison was fully gone. Because of the old madam's orders, and because I carried the Emperor-granted title of Lady Jen, everyone in the Marquis estate treated me with great respect. All the servants had already started calling me madam and obeyed my every word. Even the inner courtyard's keys and authority tokens were handed to me without resistance. Meanwhile, Lucy and Tom had knelt for 3 full days and nights in the cold, damp ancestral hall without a single drop of water. Terrified and exhausted when the servants dragged them out like dead dogs, they barely had half a life left. In the main hall, the old madam sat upright in the grand chair, staring at the 2 trembling figures kneeling below. Her face was full of undisguised disgust. You 2 wretches, you did something so shameless and disgraced both the Jack family and the Anna family. The old madam looked coldly at Lucy. Lucy, the Emperor has already made the decision. You've been divorced and expelled. You are no longer part of the Jack family. Go wherever you want. Get out of the Marquis estate right now. Lucy's forehead wound hadn't even healed, and after kneeling for 3 days, she was extremely weak. The moment she heard she was being thrown out, she was scared out of her mind and kept kowtowing as she cried, Please, mother, have mercy. No, Lucy is already carrying the 2nd young master's child. My reputation is ruined now, and the Anna family will never take me back. If I walk out this door, death is my only way out. Please, for the sake of the child in my belly, let me stay. Even though Tom had been beaten black and blue by the old madam, he knew that if he abandoned Lucy now, people would curse him even worse. So he pleaded desperately, Mother, this is all my fault. But the child in Lucy's belly is still the Jack family's bloodline. Lucy and I had feelings for each other from the beginning. It was just a twist of fate. She was miserable, and we simply couldn't help ourselves. Couldn't help yourselves? I picked up the blue and white porcelain teacup beside me, skimmed the foam, and let out a cold, mocking laugh. 2nd young master, what exactly do you mean by that? If you truly had feelings for my sister, why didn't you risk everything and tell the Emperor when the marriage was granted? In the Anna family's generation, there were 5 unmarried, legitimate, and concubine-born daughters. The Emperor never named anyone specifically. Did my father hold a knife to my sister's neck and force her to marry into the Marquis estate? My sister did something this disgraceful and dragged the Anna family's century-old reputation through the mud. Are you really saying the Anna family wronged her? 2nd young master, you keep saying you loved my sister, yet you didn't even have the courage to fight for her once. You're weak, indecisive, and two-faced. How can you call yourself a real man? What's even more laughable is that you stayed silent before, but while your elder brother was away at war and his life was unknown, you seduced your own sister-in-law. Taking advantage of a crisis with no moral line at all, it's truly disgusting. My words cut across Tom's face like knives. He was ashamed and furious, but had nothing to say. Lucy, however, reacted like I'd stepped on her sore spot. She screamed and pointed at me. Anna, stop acting so righteous and making sarcastic remarks. What do you know about being left alone in an empty room? If you got married, and your husband left the very next day for a year or more without even sending a letter, I don't believe you'd be willing to wither away inside those four walls. I gave a disdainful snort, my eyes filled with contempt. Even if I died, I would never be as shameless as you. The reason people are human is because they know propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame. You ignored every moral boundary and committed adultery. What right do you have to compare yourself to me? That's an insult to me. The old madam had heard enough. She let out a heavy sigh, her eyes full of exhaustion. Enough. You two committed such a disgraceful act inside the Marquis estate and made it the talk of the entire city. I can't control this anymore. She glanced at Lucy's slightly swollen belly. In the end, her heart softened a little. It is the Jack family's bloodline. Tom, since you insist on keeping her, then do as you wish. News has already come from the Anna family. Duke Wei invited the clan elders and opened the ancestral hall. Lucy's name has been removed from both the Anna family register and the clan genealogy. She is now a homeless commoner. When Lucy heard that she had been expelled from her family, it was like being struck by lightning. Her eyes rolled back, and she started crying and thrashing, trying to slam herself into a pillar. Two rough servant women pinned her down. Tom had no choice but to crawl on his knees to the old madam and cling to her leg. Mother, please. Lucy has nowhere to go. Please let her marry me. The old madam struck her cane down and delivered her judgment coldly. A legal wife, she can forget it. Since she's pregnant, let her follow you as a nameless lowly concubine. And there's no need for any ceremony, so you don't embarrass us in public. Go to the accounts office, take some silver, pack your things, and move to the rear side courtyard immediately. Starting today, the brothers will divide the household. The second branch's expenses will be cut off from the family funds. From now on, you're on your own. Tom snapped his head up, his eyes full of disbelief. Divide the family? Mother, I'm your biological son. Is only my elder brother your son? Am I not? How can you be so cruel to me? If I don't marry Lucy, how is she supposed to live? If she just quietly becomes my concubine with no status, won't I be laughed to death whenever I go out to meet people? I cut him off coldly. Little uncle, you're wrong again. If you openly marry a divorced widowed sister-in-law with full ceremony, the Marquis estate will become the biggest joke in the entire capital. You may have no morals and no shame, but the estate and the old madam still need their dignity. After hearing me, Lucy struggled and screamed curses at me. Anna, don't get proud too soon. Jack may be alive now, but he's been poisoned badly and is still unconscious. Even the imperial doctors said it's dangerous. Whether he wakes up or not is another question. Maybe once you marry in, you'll immediately take off your red wedding clothes, put on mourning clothes, and become a real widow. Slap. Without hesitation, I stepped forward and struck her hard across her already injured face. How dare you curse my husband? I snapped, my gaze sharp. Lucy, are you disappointed that I'm not dead? Suddenly, a clear but weak voice, filled with overwhelming authority, came from outside the main hall. My heart jolted and I spun around. A tall, upright figure slowly stepped over the threshold with the support of two personal guards. His brows were sharp, his eyes bright. Though his face was pale and thin from the poison, his dark eyes were still as piercing as cold stars. He wore loose, everyday robes, and the white bandages beneath were faintly visible. It was Marquis Jack, newly awakened, my husband in name. When Tom and Lucy saw Jack appear like the king of hell himself, their legs gave out. They collapsed to the floor together, not daring to raise their heads, shaking like leaves. The old madam excitedly pushed the nanny aside and stumbled toward him. She grabbed Jack's hand, tears pouring down her face. My son, you finally woke up. The doctors said you wouldn't wake for several more days. Why did you get up by yourself? Hurry, help the Marquis sit down. Jack let his mother help him sit in the main seat. He gently patted the back of her hand before slowly turning his gaze toward the two kneeling on the floor. The hall was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The killing aura he had forged through mountains of corpses and seas of blood pressed down so hard that Tom could barely breathe. Jack's voice was not loud, but every word struck their hearts like a hammer. Lucy, when His Majesty granted the marriage, an emergency broke out at the border. I had to lead the army out the very next day. I knew that trip could easily cost me my life, so I did not consummate the marriage with you. I was afraid that if I never came back, I would ruin your whole life. He looked at Lucy's terrified face, his tone calm enough to be frightening. I remember it clearly. The night before I left, I handed you the household keys and told you myself that you did not have to remain chaste for me. If you felt lonely in the inner chambers, or if you found someone you loved, you could tell my mother and return home to remarry. I had even written the divorce letter in advance, stamped it with my private seal, and placed it in the hidden compartment of my study. Lucy suddenly raised her head, her eyes full of shock. Before I left, I explained every possible way out to you, one by one. I gave you both dignity and freedom. Slowly went cold. But what about you? Why would you hide behind the title of Lady Dingyuan and do something so disgraceful? If you really liked him, you could have just taken the divorce papers and left. Why drag me and the Jack family through the mud? Lucy opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. This was never about love. She just wanted the wealth and status of being mistress of the manor, while still chasing pleasure on the side. Jack couldn't even be bothered to look at her anymore. He turned to Tom, who was curled up in the corner, his eyes filled with disappointment and pain. And you, Tom, my dear little brother? Jack let out a cold laugh. Father died early, and Mother held this manor together. As your older brother, I protected you since we were kids. I gave you the best teachers and the best resources. I thought you were just weak, useless in both books and battle. So I figured I'd fight on the front lines, earn my title, and let you live comfortably in the capital. But I never imagined you'd lose even the most basic human decency. You had an affair with your own sister-in-law, destroyed every moral boundary, and after she got pregnant, you even tried to use it to trick Anna's family into covering for you. Jack slammed the table so hard the teacups rattled. You disgust me. From this day on, this manor has no second young master. Get out to the side courtyard and never step into the main hall again. That very night, Lucy and Tom were like two stray dogs, carrying only a few pathetic bags as the servants half pushed, half escorted them to the most remote, broken-down back courtyard. Lucy went from the high and mighty mistress of the manor to a despised concubine with no proper title at all. Servants always worship the powerful and step on the fallen. For a woman like Lucy, disgraced and out of favor, they naturally cut corners and gave her nothing but dirty looks. And since the old madam was determined to split the family, Tom's branch was now separate. He was no longer considered a real master of the manor, with only a few coins each month to keep him from starving. With Lord Dingyuan alive and back home, the manor finally had its backbone again. Everyone united, swept away the gloom, and happily began preparing for the wedding. Although Jack and I had already received the Emperor's approval, and the imperial decree made me the rightful Lady Dingyuan, the old madam insisted that I, their lucky star, could not be treated unfairly. Once Jack recovered, we had to hold a grand wedding properly. To make it easier to care for him, I temporarily stayed in the side room of the main courtyard. One sunny afternoon, I carried in the medicine prescribed by the imperial physician. Jack was leaning against the bed, reading military texts. When he saw me come in, he put down the book and looked at me with deep eyes. His face was sharp and handsome, with strong brows and a straight nose. Compared with Tom's oily, pretty boy face from my past life, Jack was far more striking. Especially that heroic air around him, it made people feel safe. He looked at me with a serious expression. Mother told me everything. Back then, outside the city gate, you were willing to mourn for me as my widow, even willing to marry my memorial tablet. I stirred the medicine with a spoon and answered calmly. The situation was urgent. After what my sister did, if I hadn't asked for the decree, Anna's entire family name would have been ruined, and I would have been dragged down with them. I did it not only to save the manor's reputation, but also to save myself. My lord, you don't need to feel like you owe me anything. Jack looked at me deeply for a long moment, then suddenly chuckled. The imperial decree has been issued. You are already my wife, Anna. Whether you did it to protect your family's reputation or to protect yourself, I still respect your courage and loyalty. He paused, and his tone became extremely serious. From now on, the inner household of Dingyuan Manor is yours to manage. As for Tom and Lucy, don't bother with them. I heard the Duke's estate has already removed Lucy from the family records, so you no longer need to treat her as your sister. In this family, if anyone dares bully you, act like the mistress of the house and hit back. If anything happens, I, Jack, will hold up the sky for you. My hand paused slightly around the medicine bowl, and a complicated feeling rose in my chest. I let out a long breath. It seemed this Jack was truly a man who knew right from wrong and took responsibility. But I still didn't understand. In my last life, he was clearly dead. How did he come back to life this time? Did my rebirth somehow change things? Either way, suddenly having a living husband was completely against my original plan of becoming a rich widow and living out my days alone. But things had already come this far, and I had no choice but to accept it. At least this time, I had finally escaped the nightmares of my past life. Even if Lord Dingyuan was alive, as long as I treated him with respect, stayed quietly in the back courtyard, managed the household, and didn't get in his way, then when he found someone he truly loved, I could step aside. Surely he wouldn't make things hard for me. By then, I could ask for a divorce letter, take my generous dowry, and still go live freely in Jiangnan. Wouldn't that be perfect? After figuring that out, I put on a gentle smile and handed him the medicine bowl. My lord, please take your medicine. I understand. Tom originally held a useless minor post at court. When news of Lord Dingyuan's death first reached the capital, the emperor planned to let Tom inherit the title to comfort the manor. Some officials, always quick to follow the wind, heard about it early and immediately began flattering Tom. Some even rushed to offer him chambermaids. But now Lord Dingyuan not only wasn't dead, he had returned alive. Tom's dream of inheriting the title was completely shattered. Even worse, his scandal of getting his sister-in-law pregnant and angering his own mother to death had already spread through the entire capital after what happened outside the city gate. Now, when he went to the office, his colleagues looked at him like he was something filthy. They whispered behind his back, and his superior found an excuse to strip him of his duties and send him home to reflect. He returned to the manor in disgrace. Since the family had been split, the second branch's courtyard was in the most remote corner, and no proper servants were willing to serve there. To punish him, the old madam gave him very little property. Tom was used to spending freely, so his cash quickly ran out. He couldn't even afford to move out and start his own household. As soon as he returned to the courtyard, he saw Lucy sitting on a stone stool, acting spoiled and cursing at a rough maid. Because of her pregnancy, Lucy had terrible morning sickness and couldn't keep food down. Her once delicate face was now pale and gaunt. When she saw Tom return, she complained with red eyes. "Where the hell have you been? You're still the second young master of this manor. How dare those servants treat me like this? I only felt nauseous this morning and asked the kitchen for some sour plums, but those snobs said I had no order token, so they wouldn't give me any. They even told me to buy them myself." The more Lucy talked, the more wronged she felt, and tears kept falling. Do they even still see us as masters? I used to be the lady in charge of this manor. Which servant didn't rush to please me? Now I married you and ended up like this. I'm still carrying the eldest grandson of the Jack family. Tom had already swallowed enough humiliation outside. Now, seeing this woman who had ruined his future and did nothing but complain, his anger instantly exploded. He smashed the chipped teacup on the table and roared, "Shut up! When you took off your clothes and fooled around with me, did you not know I was just a second son with no title? Weren't you willing to be with me?" Lucy shrank back, frightened by his twisted expression, but Tom pressed closer step by step. "Now I'm the joke of the entire capital. I even lost my job. Because of you, Mother turned against me, my brother despises me, and my future is ruined. What more do you want from me? I'm telling you, Lucy, if I had known this would happen, I never would have touched you. Without a burden like you, maybe after a while, Mother would have forgiven me and arranged a noble bride for me. If you keep running your mouth, believe it or not, I'll sell you to a brothel right now." The two of them fought non-stop in the side courtyard, blaming each other, shouting, smashing bowls and plates. They were so loud, even the dogs were annoyed. The news quickly reached the main courtyard. After Jack heard the young servant's report, he only sneered and said to me, "My second brother has been useless since childhood, relying on the manor's protection to survive. Now that the big tree is gone, he should get a taste of life in the mud. Don't bother with them." Lord Dingyuan returned to the capital badly wounded. The emperor, grateful for his service, granted him 6 months of leave to recover at home. 3 months later, with the imperial physician's care and my attention, his injuries had mostly healed. The old madam could no longer wait and started arranging our wedding. Lord Dingyuan was now extremely favored at court, the emperor's top trusted man. When the emperor heard he was holding another wedding to marry Princess Hejin, he specially ordered the palace to send many rare treasures. They included an East Sea jade ruyi and 2 pairs of glowing pearls from the western regions, all counted as additions to my dowry. 3 days before the wedding, according to custom, I returned to the Duke's estate to wait for the ceremony. Because of Lucy's scandal, Anna's family had been unable to hold their heads up among the noble families of the capital. But this imperial marriage saved the family's reputation, though Mother still wore a cold face because I had replaced her favorite eldest daughter. But Father, the Duke, was smiling from ear to ear. As soon as I returned, he personally came out to greet me, all smiles. "Anna, Lord Dingyuan returned safely, and your marriage was granted by the Emperor himself. This is a huge blessing for our family. Thanks to your loyal act outside the city gate, otherwise our family would have been drowned in criticism by now." Father waved his hand, and the steward immediately brought over a thick dowry list. "Don't worry, I've prepared the best dowry for you. Besides what the palace gave, I also added half of my private savings. I'll make sure you marry into that manor in grand style. I won't let Dingyuan Manor look down on you." On the eve of the wedding, all the female cousins from Anna's family came to my room to add to my dowry. Everyone was admiring the gold thread nine-tailed phoenix crown specially made by the Jiangnan Weaving Bureau. Just as the room was lively with praise, a servant rushed in, looking panicked. "Second miss, bad news. The eldest miss is back. Master said she's been removed from the family records and ordered the gatekeepers not to let her in. Now she's outside the gate throwing a fit, rolling around and making a scene." A huge crowd was gathered. My married older cousin had a fiery temper. Hearing that, she spat in disgust and slammed her handkerchief onto the table. She nearly got every woman in our family killed and ruined our reputation. And she still has the nerve to come back. How shameless. I calmly stood up and straightened my dress. "It's fine. Tomorrow is my wedding day. Bloodshed would be bad luck. I'll go see what stunt she's trying to pull now." I walked to the front courtyard. The gate was half open. Lucy's hair was a mess as she clung to the doorframe, forcing her way in despite the guards stopping her. The second she saw me come out, her eyes lit up and she instantly put on a pitiful look. "Sister!" Her face was streaked with tears as she looked at me helplessly. "I only heard you were getting married tomorrow, so I came to bring you a wedding gift. From now on, we'll both be daughters-in-law of the Marquis household. Now that you've climbed so high, why push your sister away so cruelly? Are you looking down on me now that you're Lady Dingyuan? When I was the Marquis's wife, I never looked down on you." She said all of that extremely loudly, clearly for the crowd outside to hear, trying to pressure me with public opinion. My older cousin followed behind me and exploded in anger, pointing at Lucy as she cursed. "After doing something so disgraceful, how do you still have the face to show up? You've already been expelled from the family. Stop pretending we're related." Seeing that playing pitiful didn't work, Lucy immediately showed her true colors. Her face flushed red as she glared at me. "Anna, why did you bring people here to humiliate me? Yes, I made a mistake, but are you really so innocent yourself?" She pointed at my nose and shrieked sharply. "You and Lord Dingyuan may have an imperial marriage decree, but you haven't officially bowed to heaven and earth yet. And for the past 3 months, you've been living alone with him in the same courtyard. Don't tell me nothing happened. You're just another shameless woman who got pregnant before marriage? What right do you have to laugh at me?" The moment she said that, the whole place went silent. Slandering a woman's virtue like that was vicious. A cold flash passed through my eyes and I stepped forward. With a sharp smack, I slapped her hard across the face. "Lucy!" I snapped, my voice carrying an authority no one could challenge. Back at the city gate, His Majesty personally issued the decree granting my marriage to Lord Dingyuan. That was the will of heaven. Since he returned alive, I am the rightful Lady Dingyuan by imperial decree. I stepped closer, my gaze sharp as a blade. Today's wedding is because the Marquis values me, and because the old madam honors me. Lord Dingyuan and I have acted with affection, but always within propriety. You say there's something improper between us. Are you saying His Majesty's decree means nothing? Or are you questioning the Marquis's character?" Lucy's head snapped to the side from my slap. She clutched her swollen cheek and screamed like a madwoman. "You dare hit me? I'm your older sister. I'll tear that pretty face of yours apart." She lunged at me wildly, but the gatekeeper and 2 armed guards pinned her down, grabbing her hair like they were holding a squawking chicken. "Today, I'd like to see who dares touch Jack's wife." Suddenly, a deep, commanding shout came from outside the crowd. The onlookers parted like a tide. Jack appeared in dark red casual robes, riding a powerful black horse with an elite wedding escort behind him. It turned out that since the wedding was tomorrow, he had come early to deliver the bridal gifts. Jack dismounted and strode to me, shielding me behind him. His face was dark, his gaze like an icy blade as it landed on Tom, who was trying to slip away behind the crowd. "Tom, if you can't control your filthy concubine and let her run around biting people like a mad dog, I don't mind disciplining her for you. And when that happens, I won't care if she's a woman or if she has that piece of flesh in her belly. If she dares disrespect the future Lady Dingyuan again, you two can get out of the capital together and eat sand in Lingyan." Tom was so scared he scrambled forward, grabbed Lucy by the hair and yanked her down hard. "Are you insane? Do you know what day this is? And you still dare come here making trouble?" Tom roared in a panic, then turned and kept bowing to Jack. "Brother, please calm down, please calm down. I didn't watch her properly. I'll take her away right now." Lucy's scalp hurt from being dragged, but she still refused to give up, clawing and hitting. "Tom! Tom, you coward! Jack knows how to protect his wife in public. What about you? You've never spoken up for me once. Now your brother humiliates me in front of everyone, and you don't even dare make a sound. Are you even a man?" Tom felt humiliated, slapped her hard, and dragged her away. Their screaming and fighting grew farther and farther away until no one could hear them anymore. All that was left behind was a complete joke. The next day, the wedding went on as planned. The wedding matron woke me early to prepare my makeup, and the heavy phoenix crown on my head was so bright it almost made me unable to open my eyes. Outside, Jack wore a bright red groom's robe, looking striking and handsome. He brought the wedding party to the Duke's manor and recited bridal poems. I never expected a battle-hardened general like him to be so eloquent. He recited 3 poems in a row, earning cheers from the whole hall. The place was incredibly lively. Finally, the door to my room opened, and the wedding matron called out, "The bride is coming out. Time to get in the wedding sedan." Ignoring custom, Jack personally stepped forward and held my hand tightly. He helped me step over the fire basin and steadily escorted me into the grand 8-carrier sedan. This wedding shook the entire capital. Even the emperor specially sent his most trusted chief eunuch to attend and give blessings. When I left the manor, the dowry from my family stretched endlessly like a sea of red. Together with the emperor's gifts and the Marquis household's betrothal gifts, the procession circled most of the capital, stunning everyone. Anna's family is really going all out. Of course. She's marrying as a county lady personally titled by the emperor, with so many imperial gifts too. I heard Lord Dingyuan values this marriage a lot. He specifically asked for permission to hold the highest-level wedding ceremony. Of course, the Marquis values the second young lady. Back then, she stood under so much pressure and insisted on remaining faithful to him, unlike that shameless Lucy from before. With all the guests watching, beneath flying red paper and thunderous firecrackers, Lord Dingyuan and I bowed to heaven and earth and officially became husband and wife. On our wedding night, the dragon and phoenix candles flickered. Jack lifted my red veil with a wedding rod. Seeing my shy face, a complicated, deep emotion flashed through his eyes. He poured 2 cups of wedding wine and handed one to me. Anna, after we drink this, from now on, we live and die together. We never leave each other. Blushing, I drank the wedding wine. Somehow, the fear from my past life miraculously faded in that moment. He treated me with endless tenderness, like a priceless treasure he had finally recovered. That night, the red waves rolled, and I finally understood what it truly meant to be husband and wife. On the morning after the wedding, I followed tradition and went with Jack to the main hall to serve tea to the old madam. I had just walked up with the teacup and hadn't even knelt yet when there was a loud bang. The door to the main hall was shoved open. Lucy rushed in with messy hair and swollen red eyes, looking like a madwoman. She dropped to her knees and burst into loud sobs. Mother, you have to stand up for me! Tom is not human! I suffered so much carrying his child, but behind my back he used my dowry to keep another woman outside. The moment she said that, everyone was stunned. The clan elders who had come to drink the bride's tea all stared in shock. The old madam's hand shook so hard that tea spilled all over the floor. What nonsense are you spouting? On such a happy day, why are you here bringing bad luck? Lucy cried like her heart was being ripped out. I'm not lying. My husband didn't come home all night. I was worried he got drunk outside and something happened, so I took people to look for him. A servant said he saw him go to Locust Flower Alley in the West City, so I followed. And then, I found out he was keeping a little vixen in a private house there. That shameless woman is already 3 months pregnant. Mother, you have to stand up for me. Right after that, Tom rushed in from outside with his clothes all messed up. Furious, he pointed at Lucy and cursed. You crazy shrew. Who let you come to the main hall and make a scene? Mother, don't listen to her nonsense. What unknown woman? She's a proper young lady from a decent family. Lucy jumped up and cursed right in his face. Bullshit. What proper young lady becomes another man's mistress and secretly gets pregnant by someone else's husband? She's nothing but a cheap slut. A shameless woman like that ruins the family name. According to the house rules, she should be beaten to death. Tom had been hit where it hurt. Like an enraged bull, he jumped up and fired back. You dare! How do you have the face to talk about Amy? Are you some kind of good woman? You're 10,000 times more shameless than her. Haven't you made enough of a laughingstock of yourself in the capital? If she deserves to be beaten to death, then you should be drowned first. At least Amy wasn't married and didn't cheat at a funeral. The two of them exposed each other's scandals right in front of the elders, throwing filthy insults around. Jack's face went cold and he slammed the table. Enough, Tom, what do you think this place is? Tom trembled in fear but still stiffened his neck and spoke to the old madam. Mother, Amy is the daughter of an official from Jiangnan. She may be born of a concubine, but she is still educated and proper. She already left her family for me. I've made up my mind. I'm going to divorce Lucy and marry Amy as an equal wife. After hearing such ridiculous words, the old madam clutched her chest and nearly couldn't catch her breath. Her vision went black, and the servants rushed to help her breathe. You disgrace, you absolute disgrace. Instead of living a proper life, you insist on chasing these rotten affairs. If you insist on marrying that woman with no clear background, then take Lucy and get out of this household immediately. Once you leave the Marquis's estate, you can marry 100 women for all I care. Seeing his mother so heartless, Tom also stood up stiffly and said with forced confidence, Fine, I'll move out. Amy and I truly love each other. Staying in this house, I have to deal with my brother's cold looks and Anna's attitude. I've had enough. I'll leave today. After saying that, he didn't even glance at Lucy on the floor before turning to leave. Lucy cried and screamed behind him, pounding the ground desperately, but he didn't look back. Afterward, I had my dowry maid go ask around, and only then did I piece together the whole story. It turned out that when Tom studied in Jiangnan years ago, he met Amy at a lantern festival and fell for her at first sight. Amy was pretty and innocent looking, especially good at acting soft and dependent. This time, when her father was promoted and moved to the capital, Amy naturally came along too. She wanted Tom because he was handsome and from a Marquis household, and she didn't care at all about the huge scandal between him and Lucy. As for Tom, he had lost his standing in the Marquis household and wanted to use Amy's father's power to make a comeback. So the two hit it off instantly, burning hot and fast, and started another secret affair. Tom thought that as long as Amy got pregnant, the deal would be sealed. For the sake of family reputation, her father would have no choice but to accept the marriage and support him as a son-in-law. But Amy's legitimate mother was famously fierce and extremely harsh toward children born of concubines. After finding out, she didn't compromise at all. Instead, she beat Amy and threw her out. She even announced publicly that Amy had died of a sudden illness and cut ties completely. Tom was dumbfounded. When he had no choice but to bring Amy back to the small courtyard he rented, he realized her family truly refused to recognize her anymore. The in-law support he thought he could rely on turned into nothing. His whole world collapsed. Now he had two women around him, both cast out by their families with no help to offer. Worse yet, neither woman was easy to deal with. Lucy relied on being pregnant with the eldest son and acted like the senior wife every day. Amy thought she was an innocent girl who had followed him, while Lucy was just damaged goods. In that cramped little courtyard, the two fought for favor and fought over the limited monthly money every single day. They even came to blows. The place was so chaotic that Tom didn't dare go home after work. To him, it felt like a living hell. Feeling irritated and restless, he got hooked on the pleasure houses in Ping Kang Alley. The small bit of property he received when the family split was soon completely wasted. As for the wife and concubine at home, they had to grit their teeth and use the last of their private savings just to survive. The day Lucy went into labor, the wind was freezing. Her water broke, and she was rolling in pain on the bed. The maid rushed out to find a doctor and a midwife, only to realize there was no money left to hire anyone. She opened the last few camphor wood chests Lucy had hidden and found that Jack had secretly pawned off all of Lucy's dowry. The storeroom was completely empty. There was nothing left but dozens of empty chests. The rare furs and pure gold jewelry her family had prepared for her were all sold off by Jack. He used the money to tip women at brothels. With no other choice, the maid from the small courtyard ran to the back gate of the manor and begged for help. The old madam hated Lucy deeply, but she still couldn't bear to watch Jack's bloodline die in the womb. So she sent the best midwife in the manor. The moment the midwife arrived, her face changed. During her pregnancy, Lucy had been overthinking and constantly fighting with Anna out of jealousy. After being badly shaken and with Jack ignoring her, she kept overeating to vent her anger. Her belly had grown shockingly large. The baby was too big and the position was wrong. She was in labor for a full day and night, screaming so loudly half the street could hear her. Her voice went hoarse. Basin after basin of bloody water was changed, but the baby was stuck and wouldn't come out. The maid searched everywhere for Jack and finally found him drunk in a low-end brothel. The maid knelt on the floor and cried. "Second master, please go back and see her. Madam is dying. She's having a difficult labor." But Jack kicked her away. Reeking of alcohol, he hugged the prostitute in his arms and snapped impatiently. "Get lost. What woman doesn't give birth? Why is Lucy the only one acting so delicate? If she can't give birth, then let her die. Don't come ruin my fun." At last, on a pitch-black night after endless pain and despair, Lucy began bleeding heavily. She let out one final piercing scream and died in childbirth. The long-awaited baby boy in her belly died with her on that broken wooden bed. 2 lives lost. They said when she died, her eyes were wide open, fixed on the door. Her eyes were filled with regret and resentment. The next morning, Jack finally sobered up. When he staggered back to the courtyard, all he saw were 2 bodies in the hall, covered by a straw mat. When he heard Lucy had died horribly, he didn't shed a single tear. He didn't even feel sad. He only felt that his ears were finally free. One annoying burden was finally gone. But Anna, who witnessed everything, was completely chilled. Looking at Lucy's terrible body, Anna felt like she was staring at her own future. Jack's cold-blooded cruelty finally showed her who he really was. While Jack went to report the death to the authorities, Anna held her newborn daughter. Taking only one loyal servant with her, she quietly left that small courtyard. She returned to the gates of the Anna family home. There, she knelt and refused to get up, crying bitterly as she admitted her mistake and begged for forgiveness. When Jack finished handling the funeral and came back, the whole courtyard was empty. Anna was gone. She had taken the last bit of valuables he had left. The place looked desolate. Autumn wind swept over the fallen leaves. Everything felt bleak. Seeing his daughter admit her mistake, Anna's father finally softened. He took her back in. But he couldn't swallow his anger. So the next day, he reported Jack in court. In the memorial, he never mentioned his daughter running away. He only accused Jack of deliberately luring away a respectable young woman and disgracing an official family. The emperor was furious. He already hated Jack because of what happened to Lucy. Now that Jack had caused another scandal, the emperor ordered the Ministry of Justice to arrest him. Jack was dragged away by the officers like prey and thrown into prison. Every day, he clung to the iron bars, hoping Anna would remember they had once been husband and wife. He hoped she would come see him and beg her father to let him out. But all he waited for was endless darkness and the squeaking of rats. When the news reached the Marquis manor, I was sitting in the warm room embroidering. Hearing how Lucy died in childbirth, my fingers paused. The needle pricked my fingertip, and a bead of blood appeared. I suddenly remembered my past life. Back then, I also had a difficult labor. Back then, I was also in pain worse than death. To swap the babies. Jack and Lucy stood outside the screen and watched coldly. They listened to my screams and watched me bleed to death. Karma really does come back around. No one escapes what they deserve. The pain they put me through in my past life had come back on them completely in this one. I took a deep breath, put my bleeding finger in my mouth, then gently touched my slightly rounded belly. Tom happened to walk in from outside. Seeing me lost in thought, he quickly came over with concern. He held my hand. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? The royal physician just confirmed a few days ago that you're pregnant. He told you not to overthink or worry too much. Even if the second branch makes a huge mess. Even if they all die, that's their own karma. It has nothing to do with you. That's right. Just a few days earlier, I had felt nauseous and dizzy in the morning. Tom was so nervous that he took his pass straight to the palace. He invited the chief physician over to check my pulse. I was already 2 months pregnant. As for exactly when we became a real couple, I could only blame our wedding night. He was too good at tempting me. And I had a couple extra cups of wedding wine. Before I knew it, I had given myself to him. Looking at the man in front of me. This man who treated me like a treasure, I held his broad, warm hand tightly and asked softly, "My lord, no matter what happens, no matter how many storms come in the future, will you protect me and the child in my belly?" Tom held my hand back and pulled me into his arms. He lowered his head and kissed my forehead deeply. Then he smiled, his expression steady and reassuring. "Of course, you are my lawful wife, and he is my child. Even if it costs me my life, I, Tom, will protect you both." What's wrong? Does my wife not trust her husband's abilities? After 10 months of pregnancy, the day of delivery finally came. I didn't suffer like Lucy had. Tom had prepared the best midwives and royal physicians in the capital early on. They were already waiting in the manor. When the contractions hit, he ignored everyone's warnings. The old madam and the matron said the delivery room was bloody and unlucky for a man to enter, but he insisted on staying by my bed. He held my sweat-soaked hand tightly, his eyes red, even more nervous than I was. "Amy, don't be scared, I'm here." He kept repeating it by my ear, his voice trembling slightly. "Once you give birth to this child, I'll tell you a secret I've kept for a long time." I was in so much pain I had no mind to listen to his secret. I only felt like he was in the way, so I gritted my teeth and pushed him out. "Get out, don't stand here bothering me." He was pushed outside, but paced back and forth like a trapped beast outside the delivery room. At dawn the next morning, the first light broke through the darkness. A loud, clear baby's cry rang through the main courtyard of the Marquis manor. "Congratulations, my lord. Congratulations, madam, it's a healthy baby boy." The midwife came out beaming with joy. That cry was like the first light of dawn. It finally cleared away the gloom that had weighed on my heart for 2 whole lifetimes. Tom rushed into the room immediately. He didn't even glance at our son in the swaddle. He went straight to my bedside, knelt on the footstool, and brushed aside the hair stuck to my forehead. "Amy, you worked so hard." Only after making sure I was safe did he carefully take the baby from the nurse. The great general, usually decisive and ruthless on the battlefield, now looked at the baby in his arms. The baby looked so much like him, and Tom's eyes became unbelievably gentle. He didn't even dare to use any strength. His fingers trembled as he gently touched the baby's soft little cheek. Even his breathing became careful and quiet. When the old madam heard the news, she hurried over with the help of the maids. Seeing her healthy great-grandson, she cried tears of joy and kept praying with folded hands. Right then, the old madam named him Noah. The name meant peace and safety for life. It honored Tom's years of fighting for the country and wished the child a smooth, worry-free life. During my confinement month, Tom turned down almost every unnecessary social event and court duty. Every day, once he finished military work, he came straight to the inner courtyard. He was a warrior, and his palms were covered in calluses. But when taking care of me and our son, he was so thoughtful it amazed everyone. He personally checked on my meals and daily routine. Even when the baby cried at night, he never left it to others. He learned from the matrons how to change diapers and burp the baby. His movements were clumsy, but he was incredibly serious. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night. Through the soft moonlight, I saw him sitting on a small stool beside the bed. He held a palm fan in his hand, gently fanning me and Noah in the cradle. He quietly watched us, his eyes full of deep tenderness and love. It made my heart tremble. The memories of being betrayed in my past life, of dying alone and helpless on the delivery bed, slowly began to fade under his careful protection. The day my confinement ended, Tom sat with me under the grapevines in the inner courtyard. Noah was sleeping soundly in the cradle beside us. As I looked at Tom, I suddenly remembered what he had said on the day I gave birth. I couldn't help asking, "My lord, back then outside the delivery room you said you had a secret to tell me. What was it?" The smile on Tom's face faded slightly. He stood up, came to sit beside me, and held my hand. His eyes turned serious, even carrying a trace of someone who had survived a disaster. He took a deep breath, as if finally making a huge decision. "Amy, the truth is, I was reborn too." My heart shook hard. My mind went blank as I stared at him in disbelief. You were reborn too?" Tom gave a bitter smile and nodded. His gaze drifted into the distance, as if he had fallen back into the most painful memory. "In my past life, I did die on the battlefield, but for some reason my soul never left. It kept drifting above the Marquis manor. As an invisible ghost, I saw the truth behind Lucy's fake death, Jack's hypocrisy and cruelty, and everything they did to you.